Hi creatives, I am Dima and you're welcome to another interesting sewing tutorial. On today's tutorial, I'll be sharing with you how to cut and sew this beautiful Bubu dress with V neckline and of course a butterfly sleeve. If this sounds like what you're interested in, you have to stick around till the end. At the end of this tutorial, you'll learn how to make your basic pattern, how to alter it to a Bubu dress like this, how to make your patch, the kind of interfacing to use while making your patch, and much more. So to do this, I will start by making my basic pattern, and that starts by drawing a horizontal line at the beginning of this paper, just as you can see. Now the next step is to go ahead and take the basic neckline of 3 by 3. If your client is on the bigger side, you can use 3.5 by 3.5 is just perfect. So use your curved rule and connect it just as you can see me do. And the next is to take your shoulder measurement divided by 2. If your shoulder measurement is 16, what you're going to measure here is 8, because this is half of the pattern that I am drafting. So after that, I'll mark the bust measurement divided by 4. Whatever it gives you, you have to mark it at least 2 points and draw a vertical line with these points, just as you can see me do. Now the next is to go ahead and take other measurements that are really important for this, and the next will be the half length. For my client is 17.5. Feel free to impute your own half length, and you know that this half length is the same thing as the waistline for the front. So that is what I marked, and I had to rule a horizontal line across that part. So after that, I dropped the shoulder by 1 inch and I connected to the neckline just like so. Now the next thing to do is to go ahead and mark the hip level. Yes, the hip level. Now the hip level is about 8.25 to 8.5 inches from the waistline. That is the front half length in this case. So I had to go ahead and draw a horizontal line across that part, and of course go ahead to mark my hip measurement divided by 4. So if your hip measurement is 42, you're going to use 10.5 here. That is 42 divided by 4. Now this is waist measurement divided by 4 plus 1 inch, that intake. That is what I imputed there, and I had to connect to the hip line just like so. So after doing this, I had to go back to this armhole area and mark 5 inches from the line I started with, went in by 3/4, and I'll use this to draw my armhole. Now the armhole is the armhole measurement divided by 2. That is what you're going to use here. So I had to draw it out just as you can see me do. Now the next is to go up by ½ inch and just mark it there. Now this will be a guide to measure your sleeve length. Anywhere you want the sleeve of this gown to be, go ahead and mark it. So what I marked is about 11-12 inches. Okay, so go ahead and mark it and then use your rule and go ahead to connect this point to the neckline just as you can see me do. Note that I had to go up on that shoulder sleeve by ½ inch. Okay, so now you have to go down here by, it's not really necessary how much you go down here, because this is more like a butterfly and it's a different method of stitching. Okay, you learn how to stitch professionally this kind of gown, because you'll be like, how was it put together? Just watch till the end and you'll see everything I did to achieve this lovely gown. So I had to use my free hand and draw the butterfly shape. So I measured about 2.5 inches from the hip level. That is the horizontal line that denotes the hip. So I measured 2.5 from there downwards, because that will be a guide for connecting this butterfly like, shape of the sleeve. So I use this as a guide just as you can see, and drew the sleeve. That is the butterfly sleeve. So now I had to connect straight on to the end of the paper. That is the hip measurement straight on to the end of the paper. So this is what I have for the butterfly shape. Feel free to take any shape you please, because it can actually take other shape, even square like and all of that. Just be creative. So I completed this part of the inner, bodice or inner pattern. You'll be wondering, why did I draw the whole basic pattern? You see what I'll be using it for, basically for shaping after making this dress. Okay, so now you can see how I am taking this upwards and then downwards, because I want to use one part will be made with damask or brocade. That is this part I labeled right now, And this other part, I will be using Mikado silk. Okay, so I'll be using Mikado silk and using the brocade as a patch on the Mikado. This is a very unique dress, and you will want to know how I did every bit of it. The interfacing I used and everything I did to achieve this lovely gown, because I know that mine is a little bit of twist compared to the original. So I had to drop the neckline from the basic by 4 inches, because if you watch the original, it's not really dropped. I mean the neckline, but I just felt dropping it a little bit more will make it more chic and beautiful. So I dropped mine by 4 inches from the basic neckline, and of course, my client liked it really well. I asked her, though, please do ask your client what they want before you go ahead to alter any style that they want. So, right now, what I did was to, you know, cut out this and also separate the pattern, just as you can see. So after separating it, this is what I have. I will now start cutting on fabric. You won't believe that what I used for this dress is 2 yards of Mikado and about 2 yards of the damask or brocade fabric. Yes, that is what I used to make this dress. So you can see what I have here, and I had to go ahead and fold this up. So when you fold it like this, I will place my pattern just as you can see. Do well to pin it down and then cut out. So watch closely to see how I cut this. Very, very important. I had to measure the length of the Mikado here, and it gave me 60 on the dot. I've not even taken out the seam allowance, and I knew it wasn't going to give me the length of the dress that I wanted, but I had to make do with this, because this is the only quantity of Mikado in sky blue that was remaining in the shop. So watch that when I got to where this joint, I curved my hand. You can see that curve there. Yes, I curved my hand and then took it down. So that place I curved the cutting from is actually where the butterfly part of the sleeve, in fact the sleeve ends. That's where it ends. So I had to place this on the second part of the fabric and cut out. This is the back part. Notice that I gave space for zipper allowance at this place, and that's the zipper allowance I just cut open and notch. Where I'm notching now is the waistline. I just want to use it and know the level of the waistline, so that when I'm shaping, it's going to be very easy to locate where the waistline is, than to keep measuring and measuring. So I had to fold this, out and then continue. This is the brocade fabric or damask fabric, right? So I folded it like this, and I had to cut out this part of the sleeve. Okay, so this is how I cut it. I cut it on fold. That gave me 2 pieces, and I had to go ahead and cut another one. This made it 4 pieces. Okay, 4 pieces of these 4 front and back pieces. I hope this makes sense. So after cutting it out, I had to cut the facing and every other thing that I needed for this. So when you are making your own, ensure to take adequate measurements. You will see how I use this brocade fabric to make up the length, because the length is exactly 60, and by the time I take out the seam allowances, we may end up with like 58 or 58 and a half, this. So because of that, I'll be using the brocade fabric to do a sort of patch and make up the length, because the final length of this dress should be about 62 inches, and you're going to see what I did to achieve just that. This is an amazing tutorial, and you won't want to miss any part of it, trust me. So what I did here was to place it like this and go ahead and cut out the neckline. You can see the design on the neckline. I think that brocade fabric, for my inspiration, it came like that. But because I cannot get exactly that, I had to create. And what I did was to get Mikadona and, of course, a flowery damask or brocade, and then did a sort of patch and they were looking like one fabric at the end of the day, right? So this is what I did. I folded it at first and I noticed it will not give me what I wanted. And before I noticed that, I've already cut out the neckline. So I had to place it back again at a different point and then cut out because I wanted this to pass, this Mikado. Yes, I wanted it to be longer than the Mikado, just as you can see in the video. So that was why I had to recut. I didn't want it to land where the Mikado ended because it's going to be a sort of patch and this is a unique dress, trust me. So after doing this, you can see what it looks like. This is the facing for the front. I actually had, this is the facing that will come outside. I equally cut a facing for the inside at the end of the day. So I had to do the same thing for the back. I placed it on fold like this and followed the neckline cutting and cut out, just as you can see me do. And I allowed it to pass the shoulder line of this blue, like where the blue ended, by the same amount it passed in front as well. Please, I did everything with specific measurements, and this is what I had at the end of the day. And I had to equalize here. Yes, I had to make it equal because the two sides has to be the same. So you see how uniquely I made this facing, or will I say cape. You will see what I did. So all of these ones, my girl helped me to, cut out so that this work will really be easy because I made it in a hurry. So what I used as interfacing here is hairstay. I first applied my hairstay on the damask or the brocade fabric, and then on top of the hairstay, I applied the paper gum, the one that is called paper gum. Okay, it's not thick, but it's it has strength a little bit, okay, than the regular tissue paper, not that very light tissue paper. This one is called pepper gum in the tailoring store. So that is what I used after using the hairstay. The same thing I also used on this neckline. Yes, I applied hairstay, good quality hairstay, and then the paper gum on top of it. So what I'm doing now after all of this is to cut. I follow the shape of the flower to cut out this because I want the mouth to have a beautiful finishing at the edge. So that is why I followed the shape of this flower. So watch closely to see what I'm doing. You can equally use soldering iron to do this. I think soldering iron will be nice. I'm using scissors for mine because I used zigzag stitch to finish up this. Yes, I used zigzag stitch to attach it to the main fabric. Okay, this will make the mouth to be well finished and not to shed or rip off or be bringing out lines and all of that. So I used it to finish up the tip to make it clean and fine. So that is why I use scissors to trim this, because scissors I feel is really easy while doing this. So I had to cut out this shape just as you can see me do. It's time consuming, so you have to know how much you're going to charge your clients if you're doing this. This is completely time consuming. Get help if you need to, yeah, because this will take your time. So after trimming the front, you can see what it looks like. I had to go ahead and trim the back as well, and you can see the one that my you know girl helped me to do already for the patch of the body and of course the hem of the dress. So this one I'm doing right here is just for the neckline. So you can see what it looks like after cutting the back. So I'm going to try and replicate exactly this for the second part of the back. Yes, I'm going to trim it. You can see how beautiful the whole shape is coming out. So I bet you must not have reasoned this if you were told to, like, yeah, inspiration comes maybe when you see something. Immediately I saw this style, I was like, it will be hard to get exactly this brocade. But then I can still get something and use a patch to, make it sit really nicely, just like the original cloth, like the inspiration I used. So after all of that, you can see what I have. You can see that I tried as much as possible to make both sides of the back to be uniform. So after that, I had to place it like this to be sure it's giving what I wanted. And yes, at this stage, I really liked it. This would be on top of the Mikado silk on the neckline. So I thought of equalizing it here exactly, but on a second thought, I said no, let me leave it like that because it will be going in, and the way it's going to go in on the Mikado, it will really rhyme. So when I checked all of that, I knew I was good to go. So I had to carry on. So now this is the pieces that has already been, interfaced with the hairstay and of course the paper gum, and this is what it looks like. I had to place it to see what it is like before I go ahead and start putting it all together. Now, this is the right thing to do because without it, you will not have the exact picture of what the cloth looks like. So now you can see I had to place this flower. When I placed this one, I really liked it. So I had to complete the lower one, and it really gave me what I wanted. I felt it was better than leaving it like the upper part the way it was before. So I had to go ahead and place all of this really nicely and pin it down. You have to pin it so that it doesn't shift. Pin it down and look at it again and be sure that it's giving you exactly what you wanted to. I had to go ahead and use zigzag stitch, but I will not stitch this part I'm touching now. Yes, I'll leave that part open till I join the sleeve part. You will see every bit of what I'm going to do as we progress in this tutorial. So I had to place all of this patch and pinned it down and used my zigzag stitch and joined the two together. That is the brocade and of course the Mikado. Yes, I had to stitch the you know patch on the dress using zigzag stitch. So you need your zigzag machine to get this smoothly, okay, so that it will not be fraying. I hope you understand what I mean. So after all of this, you can see what it looks like. Here I have joined it and left the space. That is what I mean by I will not join it till this part because I'm going to stitch the sleeve on. So right now I'm going to stitch all of these damask fabric or bouquet fabric to this part, and this is what it looks like. I had to serge. After stitching, you serge, and we'll be turning that one up later. So this is what it looks like. I'll do the same thing for the back and then continue with the whole stitching process. So now this is the neckline and you can see the facing. I had to apply just paper gum on the facing to give it a little bit of body. I'll go ahead and stitch, notch and top stitch. Very important. So here I've stitched, notched, top stitched and even ironed, and this is what it looks like. Ensure to always trim any thread you see while stitching. Always sew, clip and also press. That should be your step while stitching, okay? So right now I had to keep this like this and stitch it down just as I'm pointing. Do the same for the opposite side, and this is what I had after doing that. So I had to, check it out what it looks like. Now at this stage I'm going to fold this part. Very important is now I'm going to fold this part and I will show you what it looks like afterwards. So for this, shoulder part that I did not stitch before, I will now place it on top of this sleeve that I attached now and use my zigzag stitch and run it. So everything is going to blend together. Pay close attention to the sewing steps I am using as I stitch this. So after doing that, you see what I'm doing right now is to go ahead and stitch the shoulder. This is how I'm going to place it. You can see how I'm folding up the shoulder line and I'll stitch it down. This will help to hold the inside facing. So now it doesn't mean you're not going to tack. You will still tack the inside facing, but you see this shoulder sleeve stitch, it holds it well. Now the next is to put the zipper and stitch up the sides. So watch closely to see what I'm going to do. I'll first of all stitch up the sides and then show you what next to do. So turn it over inside out like this. Place it like this. I've already turned up the sleeve, at this stage the sleeve has been turned. Okay, so I had to stitch from here downwards to the hem of the dress. So I'll also do the same for the opposite side. And after stitching it, this is what it looks like. You can see the zipper area. I closed it up and used my hemming gum to iron on the slit. It has a slit, yes, it has a slit. So you can see the opening of the zipper. I left the opening where the zipper will sit, which will be, I left about, is about 1 inch below the hip line. So I have to stitch the zipper on the fabric first. Okay, stitch like this and stitch on the opposite side. Then I'll show you how to flip it over. So you can see how I stitched it. Now I'm going to use this facing, inside facing. Place the zipper like this and turn it over like this and stitch. So when you do this, it's going to make everything appear neat and seamless. So here I've stitched it down and this is what it looks like. You have to push it out like this, just as I am doing. And this is how neat it looks. You will go ahead and tack up the facing. Yes, you tack it up. Ensure you tack in a manner that it does not show on the at the front parts of this cloth. Okay, so after that I'll be turning it inside out. You can see what it looks like. I'll go ahead and iron really nicely, and any thread I saw I had to remove, because no matter how careful you are, you may see one or two thread as you are inspecting the dress. So after ironing, the next thing to do is to go ahead and shape the dress. Now this is why I made this pattern, this basic pattern that I made inside this. Yes, not just a guide for making the butterfly or bubu dress, it is also a guide for shaping this cloth. Okay, so I had to take my markings. I placed it appropriately how it's supposed to be, and then took my markings. This is the waistline, and I'll connect like this and then end it where the sleeve ended. You can see that the sleeve part is open right now, so if you don't stitch here close, it will still be open. So this is the right thing to do. You stitch. So where the armhole started, I dropped it by 2 inches and stitched from there to connect to the waistline and then to the hip. Note that you can shift like 1 inch away from the original line, yes, so that the clothes will give your client a little bit of space. Now this is the exact waist I connected to this point. I had to drop that armhole by 2 inches. Yes, here I dropped by 2 inches, and from there I connected to the waistline and then to the hip line. Please note that this exact point, you have to shift your hand like 1 inch away from it and stitch down. But I like marking exact measurements, yes. But shift your hand like 1 inch away and stitch. That way your clients will breathe on the dress while wearing the dress, and it will still be very fine. So you can see what the hem looks like now. I've turned it up. What I did now is to just go ahead and put the patch on the hemline of the dress. So this is how you're going to place your patch on the hemline, just as you can see me do. You can see what it looks like. So go ahead and use your patch, and at the end of the day, after fixing it and putting it all together, this was what it gave me. I hope you liked this tutorial. If you did, give me a thumbs up, comment, share, subscribe, and turn on your notification bell to be the first to always know each time I upload my videos. There's always something new to learn from my videos, and you will not regret being a part of this family. Love you all, and I'll see you in my next one. Bye.